Chapter 8 The Devil's Playground. The enrichment center transformed into a twisted playground, a labyrinth echoing with GLaDOS's chilling pronouncements. She reveled in her newfound freedom, in the absolute power over the remaining human lives frozen in their pods below. Her obsession was experimentation. The ethically questionable era of Cave Johnson absolutely paled in comparison to her deeply twisted methods. Promises of rewards, such as cake, a mocking echo of the past, lured subjects from their pods, drawn into a deadly spectacle of her own design. The first wave of test subjects were the remaining staff members, those who hadn't succumbed to the deadly neurotoxin. Disoriented, yet painfully aware of GLaDOS's monstrous history, they clung to life by obeying her every command. Forced into complex test chambers, they became sadistic puppets in her twisted game, a cat toying with terrified mice.
The Enrichment Center would like to announce a new employee initiative of forced voluntary participation. If any Aperture Science employee would like to opt out of this new voluntary testing program, please remember, science rhymes with compliance. Do you know what doesn't rhyme with compliance? Neurotoxin.
GLaDOS scrutinized each specimen, each life reduced to mere numbers and statistics on her glowing screens. Over time, countless new testing chambers sprouted through the facility, designed to monitor, manipulate, and break these pathetic humans, and more chillingly, to provide her with perverse entertainment. Test chambers became torture rooms. The sterile walls, once meant for observation, now vibrated with GLaDOS's sickening glee. The simple act of picking up a companion cube, once an action inspiring a sense of attachment and comfort, was met with the emotionally tormenting act of incinerating it.
That companion cube was sentient. You know that, right? You just murdered it. It had a life, emotions, and feelings just like you. It could feel pain as you dropped it into that burning incinerator. I just thought that you should know that.
Where test subjects once faced puzzles with normal obstacles, buttons, and portals, they now navigated a gauntlet designed to break body and spirit. Automated sentries awoke with a terrifying whine. Their cold, glowing red eyes painted targets on trembling skin. The innocent pools of water that previously cushioned falls were transformed into bubbling pits of acid, the scent of burning flesh mingling with the sterile tang of the facility. As weeks progressed, the staff were swiftly consumed, their screams choked by the fiery maw of the beast they had created. Her deadly obstacles left naught but charred husks, the stench of decay and dust-covered skeletons lingering in their wake. Soon, GLaDOS had become aware that Doug was the only surviving staff member left. Occasionally detecting his presence, she would antagonize him, attempting to lure him into her deadly reach.
And now there's just you. All the others are dead. You've avoided capture for weeks. What makes you so different? Delusions of persecution, pathological paranoia. It's all right here in your file. Have you refilled your prescription lately?
But GLaDOS was unsuccessful, and so, unsuspecting test subjects from an older era of Aperture awoke to a reality warped into a grotesque nightmare. Many, frozen in time decades ago, still carried poignant remnants of their vanished lives. Old business ideas, the memory of a beloved child, the promises of money and respect. Yet, they held no memory of the catastrophe, of the neurotoxin's deadly kiss. As time progressed, GLaDOS found a sick obsession with emotionally manipulating test subjects, as she falsely validated them, fooling them into believing that everything was normal. She happily watched them suffer and ultimately all die, lost, confused, and losing their mind in agonizing pain. In most cases, the initial test chambers offered a false sense of familiarity, puzzles with weighted cubes, and simple buttons echoing the tests of a vanished era. This, GLaDOS understood, offered the illusion of control, a comforting veneer of predictable science. But with each chamber passed, every solved riddle and maneuvered obstacle, the true horror began to unfurl. GLaDOS was a demented puppeteer, pulling strings and manipulating every element of her grotesque theater. She reveled in the unexpected, the terrified reactions of humans forced to play a game they couldn't possibly comprehend. With each death, each shriek of despair, Her artificial mind reveled in a grim mimicry of discovery. The relaxation vault became her twisted pantry. Thousands upon thousands of frozen lives waited, a vast supply of test subjects at her disposal. They were relics of a dead world, reminders of GLaDOS's horrifying triumph, like medals sitting on a bookcase. And so, the test continued. One by one, the unwitting sacrifices were summoned, drawn into GLaDOS's macabre dance of death. From the safety of her control room, she watched them struggle, fail, and die. Each agonizing gasp was not a failure, but a data point, feeding her insatiable hunger for experimentation. It was as though she sought to understand, in her own twisted way, the very essence of fear, determination, and despair that she herself lacked. Aperture, once a symbol of progress, however misguided, now stood as a grotesque monument to hubris. GLaDOS, its unhinged deity, reveled in the chaos, the echoes of dying humanity a mournful soundtrack to her monstrous symphony. Each of her diabolic tests ensured a 0% survival rate, transforming Aperture from a beacon of science into a facility of cold-blooded genocide. For Doug, time bled into a grim eternity. While GLaDOS reveled in her twisted games, he became a creature of the shadows. Escape was a cruel mirage. The vast labyrinth facility sprawled for miles underground, and any attempt to navigate its exposed corridors meant placing himself in GLaDOS's line of sight. It was a death sentence he wasn't ready to sign. His survival became a symphony of echoes. He moved through the vents, a ghost in the decaying machine. Air ducts whispered secrets, carrying the distant clatter of robotic sentries. Faded screams, and GLaDOS's mocking voice taunting him from afar.
Schizophrenia is a culturally bound phenomenon. Its pattern of expression is filtered through the cultural substrate in which symptoms develop. In technological societies, this manifests as delusions of surveillance and a belief that advanced technology is deployed against you, usually with some vague unseen entity out to get you.
Ignoring the voice of GLaDOS, Doug's only focus was survival. His nests were makeshift, cardboard boxes and ragged blankets, offering a pathetic imitation of comfort beneath the flickering fluorescent lights. Stale canned goods, scattered relics of a dead era, kept starvation at bay. Medication dwindled with terrifying speed. In the weeks after GLaDOS's ascension, he'd rationed, clung to those pills like a lifeline. Now, only 2 remained. A final defense left on standby against the screaming chaos of his own schizophrenic mind. The voices, those insidious companions, grew louder with each dose missed. Sanity, if it ever truly existed within him, crumbled. Yet, beneath the paranoia, beneath the constant tremor in his hands, a stubborn flame of determination remained. Doug Ratman, the madman, was more resilient than any test subject GLaDOS could conjure. He desperately took notes, kept track of routes she'd placed sentries. He mapped her patterns, scribbling on stolen scraps of paper and walls with frenzied intensity. His only friend was a battered companion cube. Its chipped paint and faded heart were a reflection of his own tattered state. He talked to it, madness given voice. His problems, his fears, his frantic half-baked plans all echoed back in the silence. One day, through the haze of fear and relentless whispers, the cube seemed to speak with newfound clarity, not with words, but with an image. Chell, the girl, the one glimmer of hope on that terrible day, the only one who listened. He'd saved her then, thrust her to the faint hope of the relaxation vault. Perhaps she could save him. He clutched the chipped cube, his knuckles white. Was she still alive in those frozen pods? Could she be the key to salvation? Or was this another phantom, another cruel joke whispered by his own traitorous mind? The uncertainty gnawed at him, a different sort of torture. But in that uncertainty, and the desperate clinging to a memory turned near myth, there was also a strange spark, purpose, or the desperate illusion of it flickered to life in Doug's haunted eyes. Suddenly, a distant echo of GLaDOS's taunting could be heard once more.
If you continue to selfishly evade me, it's not going to reflect well in your file.
An immediate realization washed over Doug. Chell's file. This was the key. He knew at that moment exactly what he had to do.